Marketers don't need a crystal ball when they have real-time insights. Let your data lead. Visit the page to learn more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ad Age Remotely. I'm Janine Poggi, Assistant Managing Editor here at Ad Age. Thanks so much for joining us. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Salesforce, for helping to make this live stream happen. Today, I am joined by one of Ad Age's 40 Under 40 honorees, TJ Adeshola, who leads U.S. sports partnerships at Twitter. Hi, TJ.
Hey, that sounds pretty good. 40 Under 40. I don't hate the sound of that.
Congrats so much on your name to Ad Age's 40 Under 40. We are incredibly excited to have you on this year's list and to celebrate you and all of the honorees this year.
Thank you. My mom is very excited too, so I appreciate y'all for that. And for confirming to everyone that I'm truly under the age of 40. That's cool.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And before we get started, for those of you who are tuning in on our social channels and you like what we're doing here on Ad Age Remotely, please like, subscribe, share, or retweet this post. And feel free to leave any of your questions or comments on our social channels. We'll try to get them during this conversation. So, TJ, I really want to kick things off with getting an overview on the sports landscape. Obviously, the last year or so has been an interesting one for the leagues, to say the least. Following the shutdown amid COVID, things are back, and in many places, fans are back in the stands. I'm curious how consumers and brands are really looking to engage with sports moments on social platforms at this point in time. How have things evolved amid the pandemic?
Yeah, you alluded to it. The one thing is for sure, folks, sports fans, casual or diehard alike, are so thrilled that sports are back. It was a year in which sports completely changed. We were consuming sports in ways that we never thought we would. We were watching athletes throw socks into laundry bins as a way to get through the pandemic. So our role became really clear and really evident. Without fans in the arena, without fans in the crowd, Twitter, the timeline became the roar of the crowd, right? So you might not have seen fans cheering in arena, but as you scroll that Twitter timeline, you would see the oohs and the ahs and I can't believe that. Our role was very clear. We had an opportunity to serve as a bridge almost between players, leagues, sports, and fans, and vice versa. And we really leaned into it. I'll tell you, we've anecdotally seen double-digit growth in conversation and engagement around essentially every major sport. People are pumped that sports are back. People got a lot to say. And people aren't just tweeting from their couches anymore. Thankfully, people have the ability to not only tweet from their couch, but to be in arena, in the stadium, and tweet while they're watching a game, which is something that we're really excited to say that exists again.
So now that the roar of the fans has gone from solely being on Twitter when no one was in the stadium to in part being back, live, what lessons has Twitter really learned, have you learned about how to connect with fans, both in person and when they are home watching games?
We had to get really scrappy. And what was exciting to me is as these shutdowns were occurring, our league partners reached out to us in confidence and in trust. And they said, yo, TJ, we don't know what to do. We've never experienced this before. But what we do know is that the role of digital, the role of social is as imperative as it's ever been. We need to tap in with y'all. We need to figure out how we can continue to engage our fans amidst these pauses or amidst these cancellations. So it was cool to see how important the role of Twitter was as leagues and as players looked to engage their fans. It forced us. I mean, we in the NBA bubble realized that courtside seats weren't a thing, so we did the next best thing. We created courtside tweets. Right, we had tweets amidst the NBA bubble courtside, so when players were running out while they couldn't see their fans cheering for them, they could see epic tweets from fans. The World Series, similarly, there wasn't an opportunity to get to batting practice and catch a foul ball. So we did the next best thing. We took live World Series baseballs with the dirt and the wear and tear of the game, and we actually put tweets on those baseballs, and we sent them to super fans on Twitter. So it just forced us collectively to be more creative. And the beauty of that is a lot of the learnings, a lot of the insight we got from sports being different, we're able to infuse into this new era of the return of sports. So I'm pretty excited about what the future is going to look like for all of us in the sports marketplace.
Can you provide any examples of moving forward, what that might look like? Anything that you're applying that you did during, lockdowns that maybe will translate either during this NFL season or for other leagues moving forward?
Yeah, one of the things that I love that our social team, our marketing team at Twitter prioritizes is showcasing the users, elevating voices. In the past, we've done so more opportunistically. Now we're being really intentional about what that looks like. There are people who open up our app multiple times a day to tweet about their favorite players, tweet about their favorite teams, to tweet about their favorite leagues. Those are super fans and they're super users of the platform. So there are some cool opportunities to surprise and delight them. One of the things our marketing and social team have done really well is they've really started to memorialize these tweet it to existence moments where people may say, my favorite player is Tom Brady and he's going to win the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or I'm Patrick Mahomes and one day I'm going to win a Super Bowl. People come to the timeline to make these affirmations and to be right. And sometimes it sounds crazy at the time, but then sometimes those things actually come to life. And in those moments, we love to showcase those and memorialize them in fun ways, whether it's throwing their tweets on baseballs or putting their tweets in different places in the wild, where we're starting to bridge this gap between what traditional sports experience feels like versus what it looked like in the pandemic, and just fusing it all together. And it's been pretty fun to do.
And who knows, one of them could become an NFT.
That's exactly right. Those are three letters that we weren't saying before the pandemic, and now we say them every day, which is pretty interesting. That's the beauty of our space, digital and sports, the convergence of sports tech and digital. It's rapidly evolving, and it forces us to learn and to adapt each and every day. We've had some really awesome conversations with the folks at Dapper Labs, with NBA Top Shot. They've rolled out their WNBA platform as well as the NFL. So those conversations, in addition to some of the more traditional discussions that we've had, has made my job and my team's job pretty fun.
And speaking of innovation and evolution, Twitter reached a new expanded deal with the NFL over the summer, and it includes new engagement formats and other exclusive content throughout the season. And one of the things that you guys will be leaning into or are leaning into is leveraging things like audio. Can you talk a little bit more about that and about the audio format and what opportunities might be there in the sports marketplace?
Well, it's funny because a few moments ago you asked me what types of changes or what types of new things are we seeing in the landscape that we didn't see prior to the pandemic. The convergence, the boom, the rise of social audio is one that not many of us knew was coming or none of us foresaw. So we've really leaned in heavily to the format. Our partners, our sports properties have leaned in heavily to the format. One thing we know to be true, that people come to Twitter to consume and engage during that real-time sports window. When there are moments occurring in real time, people are on our platform. Social audio is a way to continue to deepen that level of engagement, to deepen that affinity. So we're pumped about it. We worked with the NFL for quite some time on this renewed partnership, and we knew that social audio needed to be a pillar of the partnership. They're ecstatic, we're ecstatic, and we've seen just a ton of amazing engagement and really encouraging performance with with the NFL Spaces on Twitter, and we're looking to pour a little gas on them to blow them up even more over the course of the season.
A couple of weeks into the NFL season, what are you seeing in terms of trends from consumers, engagement, anything that you can point out of how fans are engaging with the NFL this year?
People love the NFL, and a quick look at our data shows that we're seeing double-digit lift week after week after week. A lion's share of the consumption of video views within the sports category on Twitter are a direct result of the NFL's real-time highlights that they publish on the platform. The NFL is booming on Twitter right now, and we're really excited that we partner with them so closely and so deeply, because we're able to super serve these fans who are so eager for NFL content on Sundays, on Mondays, on Thursdays, but throughout the week in an evergreen capacity as well. This will come as no surprise to you. The most tweeted about player this past week was Mr. Tom Brady, as he returned to Foxborough and squeaked out a win against his former team, the New England Patriots. But that was a conversation that just exploded on the platform. And these are the types of moments that we're seeing week over week with the NFL on Twitter. Again, people are actually able to consume games in arena, in stadium, as well as from the couch or their sports bar. So sports are back, and we're seeing that the conversation and the engagement on the platform is increasing as a function of that. It's pretty awesome.
And how are you bringing brands into these conversations? When you see something like the conversation around Tom Brady this weekend, how are brands a part of those conversations?
Yeah, well, we've been really intentional about creating like a turnkey and easy solution for marketers to inject themselves in and around the sports conversation in real time without it feeling performative or without it feeling intrusive. So we've got this product called Amplify that allows brands to travel alongside NFL content, alongside ESPN content, alongside Fox content, to really live within these real-time moments on the platform. So when there's a game-winning field goal, or if there's a game-winning touchdown pass or grab, and that highlight is published in real time on Twitter, your brand can live alongside that. So it allows brands to really, really tap in to that hyper-engaged, super leaned-in fan that's consuming these real-time highlights on Twitter. So we're seeing brands be really intentional about identifying those fans who've raised their hand and said, I love football, and I'm actively tweeting about this set of games or this particular game. So that's cool. Another trend that I love is we're seeing brands understand the importance of storytelling and storytelling that feels authentic, that isn't like too heavily branded. When I was growing up, not to sound like an old person, because I am under 40, as you noted at the beginning of the conversation. I am under 40, that is confirmed. I remember looking at box scores, and I remember looking for what my favorite player did, how many points he had, how many assists he had, how many touchdowns he threw, how many touchdowns he ran for. And part of that experience still exists for sports fans, but it's expanded to be so much bigger than the box score. Now folks want to know, what type of wine is my favorite athlete drinking? What type of music? Who's his favorite rapper as he enters into the arena? What's his playlist? What's the new colorway of his shoes looking like? And brands understand that fans have a desire to learn a bit more about their favorite players and their favorite teams on and off the field or the court. And we're starting to see really, really, really interesting ways of lifting up hood and showing fans a different vantage point and giving fans a bit more closer access to their favorite players, their favorite teams, their favorite leagues. That's a really fun trend that I'm seeing, and I look for that to continue.
Aside from the NFL, what other leagues or sports are you seeing like really strong fan engagement? Is there any data that points to any other leagues? Maybe some that are surprising that we wouldn't necessarily expect that do really well in terms of fan engagement on Twitter.
Yeah, college football is nuts on Twitter. College football is crazy on Twitter for a bunch of different reasons, but we've seen that college football fans tend to be extremely engaged. I have an assumption that it might be because most of them still own college loans, student loans to these particular schools. When you owe a few $1,000s to your institution, you're going to cheer a little bit harder. But aside from that, people grow rooting for these teams. People have walked to these campuses, so it creates a deeper affinity for these particular sports teams that exist within the college space. That's fun. Last year we had a truncated season that fans really couldn't consume to the degree that we've seen in the past. So it feels like a complete like resurgence of college football in that way, just because we can experience it in ways that we didn't get to last year. So college football is crazy. There's a little old community called NBA Twitter. You may have heard of it. That is one of, if not the most hyper engaged sports community on the internet and in media. And we see the NBA conversation continue to just explode on Twitter. There are all types of storylines. There's all types of anticipation going into this upcoming season. And the NBA has been a partner of ours that we've worked with for years, and they understand the importance of social. Their players understand the importance of Twitter as well. So we're seeing the NBA do really, really meaningful stuff. The WNBA, this goes without saying, but this is a league that has quite literally changed the world. They've changed politics as we know it, and they've leveraged social media to do it. Twitter's played a pretty active role in that, and we're really proud of that. So the WNBA is one that is continuing to kick butt on our platform, and the games are incredible. The playoffs have been stellar. And we're not even in the finals yet. So we see a lot of engagement, and a lot of excitement in and around the WNBA too.
I want to discuss the new name, image, and likeness rules, but before we do that, we have a word from our sponsor, Salesforce.
Behind every great marketing strategy is great marketing data. Let your data lead. Visit the page to learn more.
I'm Janine Poggi, and I'm here with TJ Adeshola, head of U.S. Sports Partnerships at Twitter, and one of our 40 Under 40 honorees. As a reminder, for those of you watching at home, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels. We'll try to get to them during this conversation. So, TJ, with the change in the name, image, and likeness rules that now allow college athletes to receive compensation for brand deals, how is Twitter working with student athletes to, help them monetize their content on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked. This is one that's near and dear to the hearts of my team at large. We understand that there was a really clear opportunity to be additive here, a really clear opportunity to help empower these student athletes. At the end of the day, that's who matters the most. So as soon as we start to catch wind of the fact that legislation was changing, we had a really clear objective, and that was to be a first mover in the space. That was to be really intentional about empowering these athletes to leverage Twitter, which they've worked hard to build, to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So we partnered with a company, Open Doors, who we've worked with for years. Sports Illustrated did a really incredible article on the work that we're doing with Open Doors in the name, image, likeness space. David Herman on the Twitter Sports team has led some just stellar work, and the opportunity is really clear. We pair brands with student athletes to leverage their Twitter to monetize, right? So they create video content, they tweet it out, we pair them with brands, and they're able to be the beneficiaries of sponsorship revenue sold against that video content. It's super easy, it's super clean, it's super direct, and we're seeing brands really get excited about the opportunity. So
yeah, I was going to ask, what is the demand and interest from brands? What are they coming asking for? Are there certain types of athletes they're looking for, or how are they finding athletes that are, right for their brands?
It really is on the brand. The cool thing is sports sponsorship is nothing new to brands, particularly brands who've been doing sponsorship for a long time. where it has gotten tricky is everyone wants a clear sense of what the rules are, what the parameters are, what the legislation is, and rightfully so. So the biggest piece of education is in and around how do I do this? Like, is that okay? Is this okay? Is that not okay? Like, what are the rules of engagement here? And once they have a clear sense of what works for them, we can work within those parameters. We can work within that framework and say, all right, we've got access to this amazing networks of incredible men and women student athletes across the country. What are you looking for? Is it football? Is it basketball? Is it lacrosse? And we work with open doors to identify what may perform best for the brand and what may make most sense for the student athlete, and we package it up and we hit the market with it.
You mentioned Twitter's work with the WNBA. Can you discuss Twitter's efforts overall to support women's sports?
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up and seeing, like, just being in awe of the Houston Comets and Cheryl Swoops and Tina Thompson and just understanding like how special they were doing was at the time. And, over the years, we've been able to watch and see the impact of the league just continue to deepen. And over the past year or two specifically, even though the W has been doing the work and the W is so important, as Ariel Chambers has coined, the world is really starting to take notice about the work. But what I love is not only are they doing the work off the court, but the work on the court as well. These women are balling, they are hooping, and it's a really really great product. So we wanted to be really intentional about supporting them. We fortunately have had a long-standing partnership with them, and our dialogue with them is really clear. Like, what can we do to help? How can we amplify? How can we elevate what is what your objectives are? And the beauty is, I recall a few years ago when we first started working with the league, we would talk with brands from a sponsorship capacity as well, and they'd say, "Hey, women's sports are important to us," and then they wouldn't respond to our emails after that. Now, what we're starting to see is we're hearing women's sports are important to us, but we're also starting to see investments follow suit as well. Slowly but surely, it's happening, which is more than I can say from a few ago. The impact off the court is certainly massive, and that's felt. The gameplay is really, really good, and because of this just amazing visibility that the league is getting, sponsorship dollars are starting to fall into place too. And as we all know, for those who are marketers or advertisers who work in the space, it's really important to dollar shift. Because that emboldens the league and empowers them to make more decisions and empowers them to make more to have more impact, and it's just important for them to be elevated in that way. So we're happy to play a small role in that process. A few months ago, we worked in partnership with the WNBA to create a custom hoodie. There was a W on the hoodie, but the cool thing about the W was if you put your camera on it, it would scan. It was a QR code, and it would turn into an auto-populated tweet that offered up support language for the WNBA. It was super cool. They were pumped about it. The athletes loved it. We got it in the hands of every single player on a WNBA roster. So that's the type of work we want to continue to do with the league. And they certainly have been eager to partner in that way. So I'm looking for bigger and better with the WNBA and with the women's sports category at large.
How are you thinking and preparing for the Super Bowl? With rival social platforms gaining in prominence, Twitter has really been the platform for game day interaction, whether it's fans tweeting along during the game, brands communicating, speaking even to one another on Twitter. How is Twitter's role potentially changing during the Super Bowl this year? What are you looking in terms of strategy, for the big game?
Well, one of the cool things is the game's in LA this year, so it's an amazing media market, and we certainly want to have a presence there in some form or fashion. But more importantly, there's an opportunity to impact or to show up in a way that elevates the league in a disruptive and innovative way. We've put tweets on Super Bowl confetti the past 2 years. Like, as the confetti rains on the Super Bowl champion, there have been individual tweets on these pieces of confetti. That's crazy. That's crazy. So, one upping ourselves in partnership with the NFL, that's going to be a challenge. That is going to be a challenge. It's hard to envision where you go from tweets on confetti and or Showtime cam, where there's an actual camera in the end zone that the players show out in front of, and those highlights get tweeted out to Twitter. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we've got the best team in sports. I truly believe that, and we're going to figure it out in partnership with the NFL, and we're going to do something really cool. It's incredible. That is so cool that people start tweeting and texting about it in their group chats. My gauge of something that's really dope is if it hits a group chat or a group DM, you know that it's something that's worth talking about. So that's going to be our objective, and we aspire to make that happen.
So I know that you're passionate about diversity and inclusion, especially in building up your own team internally. Can you discuss how you look to further DE&I efforts over the past year, both within your team and how it's being reflected, to Twitter users?
Yeah, I'm so thankful you asked that question. Like, having a diverse and inclusive team just doesn't happen by accident. It requires thoughtfulness. It requires intentionality. If you look at the consumers of sports, men's sports, women's sports, basketball, football, whatever it is, you look at people who are actually playing. It tells a really clear story. These people are not a monolith, right? It's not a homogenous contingent of fans or a homogenous contingent of athletes or in the front office. So we have a responsibility to ensure the teams that we collectively in sports have supporting these platforms or working in these spaces are reflective of the consumers, are reflective of the fans, are reflective of the players who are sweating on the court. And quite honestly, we've all fell short. I look across the industry, and there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of us need to look in the mirror and assess why our teams look the way they do, why our ideas are the same time after time again. Diversity is important. Inclusion is important. It makes us all better. It makes the work better. It makes the final output again reflective of the true people who consume the content, who consume the sport, who consume the property. And at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. So I challenge myself, my company, and every other company in the space. We gotta do better. We gotta do better. It's imperative. It's necessary. It's important. And responsibility, quite honestly, particularly if you work in the media and sports category. There's really no excuse for it. So I encourage all my colleagues, anybody who's watching, if you're a decision maker, hire intentionally. Take the extra few weeks to source a pipeline that is more diverse, that is more inclusive, that is more reflective of the fans and the properties that you serve. You'll be better for it. I promise you that. That's mine. That's my soapbox. That's my high horse.
TJ, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much for joining us. Congrats again on 40 Under 40. We're excited to have you join this great group.
Thank you so much for the recognition. My mom says thank you as well. I appreciate you all, and thanks for the time.
You're welcome, TJ's mom. And you can read about all of our 40 Under 40 honorees at adage.com/40 under 40-2021. Thank you to our sponsor, Salesforce. And as always, thank you to our Ad Age crew, Arabella Breck, Alfred Mascaroni, Anna Sakula. And thank you for everyone for tuning in.